Hi, Harry from Fog of War here, and today we're going to have a look at the Comet Armoured Squadron. Now, this has been out for a while, but Red Dawn got in the way, but today we're going to do an unboxing. I'm going to pull out everything that's in here so we can have a look and see what you get. So the Comet Armoured Squadron is a very late war British starter box. It means you get everything that you need to get started with the very latest British stuff that they had in 1945. So if you're looking at fighting all the battles for the Brits right at the end of the war, once things like Comet had started to come online, this is a good starter box for you. So what do you get in here? You get 4 Comets, so those are the 77mm tanks, the very late war, basically development of the cruiser Cromwell. So you also get 2 Cromwell CSs, they're usually for the headquarters. You get 3 Chaffies for reconnaissance, a Kangaroo Rifle Platoon. So in this box set you also get infantry, which is great. You get 2 Archer 17-pounder tank destroyers, 2 Sexton 25-pounder self-propelled guns, so you get some artillery as well. And because it's a starter set, you get a complete A5 rulebook, the British Start Here booklet, and they're always very useful if you're very new to the game, and they usually also include all the assembly instructions you're going to need for the plastic that's in here. You get 2 Decals sheets, so you've got Decals to start with, and you get unit cards. So this is a full starter. If you've got nothing, this is the right thing for you to pick up if you want to play very, very late war British. And to be honest, this box set is essentially the British Army's struggle to put a 17-pounder gun on a useful chassis. So things like the Challenger that's in here, the Comet that's in here, the Archer that's in here. The British Army had a great anti-tank gun, which was great on a field mount, but they were still having trouble trying to get it onto a vehicle. They'd had it on Challengers and Fireflies previously, but again, those were expedient designs, and they were waiting for things like the Comet to come out. So it's also things like a Valentine chassis with a 17-pounder on it becomes the Archer as a self-propelled gun. So that's what's happening at this stage of the war for the British. They've got a great gun, but they're really trying to find a way to get it into service, to get it in the field and get it shooting at German tanks. Okay? So the 6-pounder gun's a great gun, but by late war it is outclassed by not only German guns, but German armour developments. So that's what we've got here. Let's pull this open and see what we get. Oh, look, lots of plastic. There's lots of fun stuff in here. Let's see what comes out first. Ooh, there we go. Oh, Chaffies. Okay, so the Chaffee, the little reconnaissance light tank with 75mm gun, is starting to replace the M3 Stuart in British service. There's not a huge amount of them deployed with British until very late in the war, but they are there. So you get 3 of those, I believe. Let's see what else comes out. It doesn't want to come out. Come on, you can do it.
One eternity later.
It really doesn't. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so these are the Cromwell sprue, and from this you can build either the gun tank or you can build the 95mm armed CS close support version. And basically the close support version, which is what you've got here for the Comet Armoured Squadron, is held with the HQ and has a 95mm gun on it that does fire support. So basically they're held as a HQ level asset, and they're able to trundle up and use the 95mm howitzer to poke holes in things that need holes poked in them. And you get 2 of those. What's next? Oh, okay, so this is one of the new plastics. This is the Challenger, the A30 Challenger. So remember I talked about getting the 17-pounder into combat. This is a lengthened and strengthened Cromwell cruiser tank. What they've done is made a much bigger turret, huge slab-sided turret on it, stuck a 17-pounder gun in. They've had to lengthen and widen the chassis somewhat to get the new big turret on. Previously, Battlefront have released this in resin and metal, and in fact one of the very first reviews on my channel was the resin and metal A30 Challenger, and now it's in plastic, and I'm really looking forward to building this. So this was basically a fire support, anti-tank fire support option. You didn't start getting them in their own full troops. You started getting them as one in amongst a troop of Cromwells for fire support. So you'd have a bunch of Cromwells and you would have one of these in as fire support. So very similar to the way that the Sherman Firefly was used, mixed in with other 75mm armed tanks. So that's a really nice little kit. I'm very much looking forward to building that one. And you get 4 of those. So there's another 2. That makes a total of 4. So very excited about those. What have we got here? Okay, so these are the Comet. So the Comet is a cruiser tank. It's developed on very similar lines to the Cromwell, but has a redesigned 17-pounder gun that, for simplicity's sake, they renamed the 77mm. It is actually still a 76.2mm gun, but they didn't want to create any logistics confusion. So it is a modified, shortened, with a shortened breech and recoil mechanism version of the 17-pounder. Has very, very slightly less anti-tank penetration, but was otherwise suitable to the job. And this was easier to put into a tank turret than the actual 17-pounder field gun, which had been designed with a longer recoil, doesn't matter on a wheeled chassis, that sort of thing. So this started to come out very late 1944, very early 1945. In fact, the troops were training on Comets when the Battle of the Bulge happened, and British troops had to turn these back in, pick up their very sad and old Shermans and Sherman Fireflies, and go off to contribute to holding the northern flank of the Battle of the Bulge. So these didn't see combat until 1945, but they were part of the British Army's drive across the Rhine and into Germany. So this is a really nice kit to build. I reviewed it recently again, but I'd forgotten just how much fun this is to build. All snips together, all goes together, all the tolerances are pretty good, very little cleanup, and makes a very nice looking kit in the end. So what have we got left in here? So there's a number of these. Okay, this is also one of the new sprues. This is the Sexton sprue. So in here, this is given to you as an artillery option so that you can do the Sexton, basically the ram chassis with a 25-pounder on it, as a self-propelled artillery piece. But this sprue is very versatile. Not only can you make the Sexton, which became the standard British self-propelled artillery piece for armoured units, basically the ram tank chassis with the 25-pounder on it, done in batteries of 4. So this does that. This also does the ram Kangaroo. So excess ram tanks had their turrets taken off and were then used for infantry transport and could transport up to 10 armed infantrymen into battle, giving them some protection. So very much like an early armoured personnel carrier. But Battlefront have gone even further with this. You can even build the ram gun tank. So what is the ram tank? The ram tank is a Canadian design that was originally based on the M3 Lee chassis. So they got a license to produce the M3 Lee, but were able to design an upper hull for it that is cast and a turret, which they eventually got a 6-pounder gun into. I believe it was the same as the British with the Sentinel. There was some wait for stocks of the 6-pounder gun to become available. But in that case, what you ended up with was quite a serviceable medium tank for the time that it was designed and built for. So of all the colonies, New Zealand made the Bob Semple, Australia made the Sentinel, and Canada made the much more successful ram tank. However, by the time these were available in numbers, and these were available in their thousands, they weren't actually used as gun tanks in combat. They were used a lot for training, so driver training, gunner training, to be able to operate in a tank. And because they were available, but there were greater numbers of more capable designs like M4 Shermans and Cromwells and things like that becoming available, they weren't used as gun tanks. They were used as observation posts in their basically gun tank configuration. So all the Sexton batteries would have had a ram tank as an observer. They were also taken and used as the Sexton. So the open top chassis was added to it with a 25-pounder field gun and also converted to the ram Kangaroo. One of the interesting things is it does actually have, in some configurations, a very, very small machine gun turret on the front hull. This was removed in later versions, I believe. This is a bit of a what if. So Sextons were used in battle all the time. They became standard. Ram Kangaroos were used in battle slightly less extensively. The ram gun tank itself was used as an OP, but was not used as in its gun tank configuration. However, the Bulge British book does actually give you that option. So you can actually take a whole bunch of ram tanks and use them as gun tanks. So it's a little bit ahistorical, but it's an awful lot of fun. Okay, and we get... should be 4 of those. No, 5. So we get 2 of them to use as Sextons, and we get 3 of them to use as ram Kangaroo transports for the infantry. I will get onto the infantry, but just before we move on, I want to look at this other new plastic sprue. So there was an awful lot of brand new plastic for late war British when this came out. This is the 17-pounder Archer. It's basically a Valentine chassis, so you can have a look there, the Valentine tank chassis, and these have been repurposed and have been fitted with a 17-pounder gun, basically facing backwards. Now, there are all sorts of rumours and misinformation about drivers being decapitated if they weren't out of the firing position when this thing fired. Apparently that's not actually true, but basically you were in the line of recoil as the gun was pointing backwards. So it would have made it more difficult to use. I'm guessing that the driver would want to be out of his position at that stage. I certainly would. So again, this is a nice little kit. Very few parts if you just have a look at this. There's not a lot on here. Should go together quite well. Haven't built one yet, but I will go through and individually review all of the new kits at some point. So what else is in here? Because it's not empty yet. You get hard plastic British infantry. So I've wanted some of these for ages. I've had British infantry, but I haven't had these particular sprues. And there's plenty of guys on here. Lots of riflemen, Bren gunners, officers. There's a Piat. Yeah, all sorts of stuff in here in hard plastic. So you get at least 2 of those. Let's have a look in here. What else do we get? We get some... These look like artillery crew figures for the Sexton crews. We'll have a bit of a look at that. You also get what looks like a couple of hard plastic British commander figures. So those are in there. There should be, yes, some infantry bases. You'll need those. Okay, let's work on books. So if we open this up, you get the usual Flames of War A5 rulebook. I'm not going to wave that around too much, but that's in there. What you do get in here is the unit cards and the decals. Come on, decals. Okay, so there's 10 unit cards for all the different units, including the new units that come with this starter box. So that's these decals here. So you get 2 decal sheets, basically half of a one of the British decal packs that Battlefront do. Let's just crack these open. Okay, so you get a formation card for the British so that you can go through and work out what you can have of what. So Cromwell CS, Comet, Chaffee, they're all stuck together. They are all stuck together. Come on, you can do it. Challenger, the Kangaroo Rifle Platoon, the Ram Kangaroo, the actual transport vehicle, the Archer, so the card for the 17-pounder self-propelled mount, and the Sexton. So all of the unit cards you need for fielding the force that's on the box is in here. There are others. So for example, there's no Ram gun tank cards in here or no Ram OP. They will be in the separate Bulge British unit card pack that you can buy. We'll have all of those. But this is basically the unit cards for this particular starter set. It's nearly empty. It's nearly empty. Okay, what we've got is the Start Here guide. So these are always very, very pretty. So we've got, opens out like this. So we've got explanations of the unit cards, the assembly diagrams for the various tanks, pictures of the various tanks involved. And as we go around to the other side, then it starts talking about how you put your force together and what you can do with this. So again, this is built as a starter, so you're meant to be able to come in, not having played the game before, and have everything you need to do a late war British force. So, how good is this as a starter kit? It's fantastic. It really is. So there are so many brand new bits of plastic in here. The Archer, the Ram in the 3 different versions that you can build, the Challenger in plastic. That was what I was really, really, really waiting for. What else have we got? Comet is a re-release, so we've had the Comet before. The Cromwell is a re-release, and the Chaffee is a recent release, but not for this, not for Bulge British. So it was released as an American kit, which is why the plastic is a different colour. No need to go out and get the British bright green plastic. Just grab the olive drab sprues from the American stuff. The idea that you also get some infantry is nice, though. Sometimes starter sets don't include infantry. Sometimes they're just armour heavy. But particularly the British, by this stage of the war, the British are working in very close cooperation. So the infantry and the tanks have all worked together so often that their combined arms is right on point at this part of the war. And they're trying to minimise casualties. The very end of the war is still a slog, but Britain is running out of manpower. So that's why we see slightly smaller platoons. We actually see incomplete formations. The British have now started to produce some nice vehicles and some nice kit, but they're running out of guys because it's been a very, very long war from them from 1939 onwards. So this is a great starter set. I know it has taken a while for me to unbox this and have a bit of a look, but it has been worth it. Red Dawn kind of got in the way. We looked at a whole bunch of fun Red Dawn stuff, but I was really waiting for this, particularly the Challenger. The RAM was a surprise. I wasn't expecting to see that in plastic. The Archer also was a bit of a surprise and looks like a really nice kit to build. Very, very few parts, but looks like that will drop together fairly quickly. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope that you got something out of it. If you were looking at a late war British force, this is probably a very good place to start. So, thank you for watching, and see you next time.